If you're struggling to build pipelines specifically through email prospecting, this video is for you. In this video, you're going to learn what industry benchmarks are for email prospecting, how to write emails that grab the exec's attention, how to avoid the quality quantity trap, responses and how to handle them, and last but not least, what to do tactically if you're struggling. So let's get right into it. First things first, what do the numbers say? Well, the numbers say 8.5% of all cold outreach emails get replied to, whether that's attempt 1 or attempt 10. So that means we have to deliver high quality emails if we're going to drive that number up. Follow-up emails get 2x reply rates. So if nothing else, follow up on your emails and you're going to get more replies. Personalization, that moves the needle, both in subject lines and in the bodies by moving them 30% plus for each. And then if you're messaging multiple people in accounts that you're targeting, that's going to skyrocket your reply rates. So now that you know the benchmarks, how do we do it? So what does world-class email prospecting look like? There's 5 steps. Identify the targets, do your research, find reasons, connect the dots, and execute. Now let's break them down one by one. So identifying the targets. 4 ways to get clear on who your targets are. Number 1 is tiering your accounts. If you don't know how to tier the accounts, I have another video that explains that. 2, identify which ones are prospects versus customers versus partners. It's going to completely change how you prospect and reach out to them. 3, industry. Segment them by industry because it's going to help you with your messaging. 4, what are the roles and the personas that you're going to be calling out to? Again, that's going to inform your messaging and help you with your prioritization. If you don't know how to find contacts, here's a page. Pause the video. A bunch of great resources and sites. Many of them give you the ability to do a free trial so you can get contacts for free. But these are some great resources. I'm not sponsored by any of them, just ones that I've seen that do great work. So use them. So now that we identify the targets, now we get into the research phase. So there's 4 buckets of research: industry, company, role, and person. So here's questions that you want to answer for each of them. I'm not going to read them all. This is another great place for you to pause the video because there's a lot here. But generally speaking, knowing what's going on in the State of the Union for whether it's industry, person, role goes a long way to help inform your messaging. Are they growing? Are they struggling? What compelling events are happening there? What type of roles do you want to focus on? What do you want to avoid? Right? Anything that can help you connect the dots from both industry all the way down to the individual person. Now, ideally, you're hitting all 4 of these, but at least if you're doing 2 of them, you're going to improve your results significantly. But ideally, you're going to be able to hit all 4. So do your research, and it's going to really help you with the next step, which is finding reasons. Finding reasons. This is all about creating compelling reasons. And what you want to know is you always need to have a compelling reason to reach out to them, meaning that person specifically. And now, why are you reaching out to them today? So, question you want to ask yourself: why do you want to talk to them? But even more importantly, why should they want to talk to you? And if you ask yourself those gut check questions, that's going to help you inform your messaging. And it's not your product, I promise you that. So a couple thoughts for compelling events. Again, not going to read them all one by one, but recent news of the companies, recent news of that individual, recent news in the industry, all the things from the research from step 2, you can leverage that to turn that into a compelling reason to reach out to them. Because every time you reach out, there should be a reason for it. And that's step 3. And once you find your reasons, then you go into connecting the dots. But before I do that, I want to warn you, do not touch base, do not check in. If you ever want to lose an executive, tell them you're touching base and you're checking in. Even if they tell you to call them back in 6 months, you're not touching base, you're not checking in. Make sure there's a compelling reason for that reach out in 6 months. Doesn't matter what it is, but you can't be touching base or checking in. There's got to be a reason that makes sense. So let's connect the dots. We've identified the targets, we've done our research, we've identified compelling reasons. We're not going to touch base with people. Now we're going to connect the dots and grab exec's attention by being short and sweet, direct and to the point, focusing on business outcomes, showing a proven track record of results, not making them do homework, Make it about them, not you. And ideally, this is best case, you get referred to them. And I'll show you an example of what a great referral looks like. So I'm not going to read this, but this is a visual of an email that's going to get deleted by execs. So take a quick glance at it. I'm going to show you a side by side in a second with a better email, because this is what an email looks like that execs do respond to. Notice at first glance, just the difference in length. If you think about that, if you're taking nothing else, shortening your emails can dramatically increase your reply rates if you do it the right way. So let's see them side by side. So let's look on the left. Very generic, subject line, very salesy. If you look in the center of the page, this is what it looks like on my mobile device. If I see that, I'm not even going to open the email. And that's step one. You got to get them to open your email. So think about this. Exciting software opportunity versus, hey, your CSAP post yesterday. And if you look at the preview line, hey, Mike, loved your CSAP post yesterday. Right? That's going to make me curious on what the email is about. So I'm going to open it. So right there, that's a massive win. And if you improve your subject lines, that's going to increase your open rates, which is the first step in your emails. Then we're not doing this. I hope this email finds you well. We're getting straight to the point because you don't have time to waste. And we want to make sure that we're focusing on what you care about. So we're getting rid of all this fluff. And what we're doing is we're grabbing your attention with that first sentence. Loved your post on CSAP being the killers of companies. That's going to grab my attention because that showed me you did some research. Because if I just posted about this, then it's top of mind. Given the growth that I'm seeing, looks like you're doing something right. Again, references, research that you've done for my company. Now, calling out things that you know of the company even makes it even more impactful. So with the aggressive hiring plans, if you just put thought and do a chatbot to complement your knowledge-based efforts. So that implies a couple things. I know that you have aggressive hiring plans. I know that you have a knowledge base, and this is something to complement what you're already doing. So compare that to the brutal email on the left side of the screen, which is very generic, very high level, not tailored to them or their company or anything that's relevant to them, okay? Because of that, they're not even going to read the whole thing. You're going to lose them. Jump back to the right side. ABC case study was in a similar place as you and quickly realized that the demand was too much for the existing team. So I'm educating them. You have aggressive hiring plans. The demand's going to go up. You might already be thinking about this. You might not be, but either way, I'm delivering value to you versus the left side of the screen, which is pretty much written by a bot, doesn't say anything about being an expert in the space and educating them. And then jump into the next line. In 2 months, short period of time, payback, they cut support tickets by 25% with our chatbot. So very quickly, in 2 months, we have a time frame. We have a quantifiable outcome, results with our chatbot, a high level or like a very simple high level, like how it was delivered. Very important because not only do they want to know what the results, but they want to know, all right, how does it work, right? Or how'd you do it? That's the first thing they do, grab intrigue to try to get responses. Then we go into the call to action. Left side of the screen is what's called a hard call to action. And you're putting homework on their plate by saying, hey, how does your calendar look next week to discuss further? So you're trying to schedule a call. So it's a hard call to action. A soft call to action is making it as easy as possible for them to reply. Because the first thing you're really trying to do with an email is get them to reply and engage. So by having a soft call to action, something like, hey, think this is worth a conversation, worth taking a look, or there's something very simple that's not going to put homework on my plate, look at my calendar, and doesn't automatically make me commit to a meeting at this point because I may not be there yet. This is going to increase your reply rates because what you're looking at is think this is worth the conversation. All I need is a yes. I don't need a long response, right? If there's a yes, great. That's something for me to work with to follow up and then try to get that scheduled. But for right now, we're just trying to get replies. So there's a big difference between an email that's not going to get an exec's attention versus one that does. So now that we've broken that down, let's go into my favorite part, which is getting referrals. If you can get referrals, this is a way to fast track your way to meetings. And here's some pro tips for you. And I'm going to show you an email example in a second. Number one, when you talk to somebody, ask if they're willing to introduce you via email. First rule in sales is you got to ask, right? Same thing goes for this. Ask if they're willing to introduce you. And if so, offer to ghostwrite the intro email for them. The 5 minutes it takes you to craft up that email to make it easier for them to copy and paste, that's going to save you a lot of time down the road. So offer to ghostwrite the email for them so it's as easy as possible. So all they have to do is copy and paste it into their email, and that's it. But if they're not willing to do that, just ask if it's okay that you mention them. Okay. I've been burned before by not asking someone permission to reference their name. And I name dropped them when I was reaching out to an executive. That executive then went to that person and said, hey, did you speak to this person? And they said, yeah, but because I didn't ask permission, they were thrown off guard. And then they pretty much went to the exec and said, hey, I don't know if this is worth your time. Versus if I ask their permission, they're not going to be taken back and thrown off guard by their executive coming to them saying, hey, did you speak to this person? So ask if it's okay. And most of the time they're going to say yes. So here's what an email looks like. It's a very similar format. You want a subject line that grabs our attention. Susan recommended we connect. I'm a big fan of just putting the first name, recommended we connect, recommended we chat, right? And because that's going to create intrigue. The first step is getting them to open the email. And then I go back into, hey, love your post on CSAT yesterday. Then you introduce the referral. Hey, when I spoke to Susan in customer success, she mentioned that you've been doing a remarkable job. So this is referencing, hey, I spoke to Susan on your customer success team, right? And because I already asked Susan if it's okay, because Susan wasn't willing to introduce me directly, I name dropped her and it's not going to be an issue. So then I go to the rest of the emails is essentially the same, but by you referencing Susan and referencing a tidbit of information that they gave you when you spoke to her, that's going to help you increase your reply rates. So referrals are extremely powerful. If you're not getting them today, I highly recommend it. So step 5, now we execute 5x8 prospecting method. I have another video that breaks this down in detail, but at a high level, pick 5 contacts, pick your outreach channels, hit them up one every week for 8 weeks, 40 attempts per contact, 40 attempts per account. Again, I have a video breaking this down in granular detail of how to do this. So if you want to check that out, it's in my channel. Let's get into the quality quantity trap. So not every reply is created equal. So if you think about this, you might get a lot of replies, but if you're getting replies from interns, it's not the same as the C-suite. Okay. And what I want you to think about is balancing quantity and quality. So I'll tell you a story. When I was a rep at Salesforce, I would see reps beside me, crafting these emails, for 30 minutes, to an executive, and their reply rates were better than mine. But in that 30 minutes that they sent that one email, I made 10 phone calls and sent out 10 emails because I put in the work to get my messaging together before. And I only did some light personalization versus spending a half hour to an hour sending these emails. So even though their reply rates were double, if not triple mine, because my inputs was 10x, 5x, 10x of theirs, I ended up having more pipeline than them. It's really that simple. So this is where you need to take into consideration quality and quantity, because getting a reply from a CEO obviously means a lot more than an intern. So you need to weigh that for your accounts. And the last thing I want you to remember is don't lose sight of what the most important metric is, which is qualified pipeline. Because if you only have 3 accounts to work and each account to you is worth $5 million and you spend all day crafting one email to personalize it to get that, because that one reply could be worth 25% of your annual number. Yeah, you're going to put a lot more energy into that one email, which makes sense. So understand for yourself what makes the most sense for you, because you wouldn't want to put that same amount of effort if your average deal size is 20K and you have to close 100 deals to get to your number. It doesn't make sense. So you have to balance this out based on your situation, your territory, your product, your average deal size, your customers. Okay. Responses. You're going to get yeses, you're going to get no's, you're going to get maybes. We like yeses, no's are fine, maybes suck. So here's examples of them. If you're getting a referral, valuable intel, them agreeing to a meeting, those are all positive indicators. If they're not interested, not the right person, not the right time, without getting intel, then those are no's. But if you're not getting a response, that's a maybe. If they send you more information, that's vague. That's definitely a maybe. I'll forward this along. That's a maybe. We don't like that. So how do we handle them? Number one, act with urgency and pick up the phone. If they email you, if they email you, pick up the phone and try to get them live. Never handle objections over email or text, ever. Doesn't work. You're wasting your breath. So that's number one. And number two, then don't accept the vague maybe responses. So here's some talk tracks of things to implement that'll help you with handling those responses, like send me more information, or call me in 6 months, or I'm going to forward your information along, or I'm not the right person. So these are questions you can ask and talk tracks to flesh that out more, to understand whether this is just a reflex objection, or there's a legitimate reason why now is not the right time. And if that's the case, you can learn a lot of intel so that 3 months from now, 6 months from now, when you reach back out, you have that compelling reason that I talked about earlier. So handle the responses. So what I want to wrap up here with learnings from your lack of success. If you're not seeing the success you want, I want you to ask yourself these questions to improve your controllables. Because being successful is not about controlling things that are outside your control, because you can't. It's the highest way to skyrocket your stress. So ask yourself these questions from, hey, am I actually sending good emails? To, am I structuring them to be mobile friendly? Am I sending enough emails? That's a big thing that I see a lot of reps struggle with. They'll say, hey, I'm not getting enough pipeline from my emails, and I'll ask them how many they're sending, and I'll look at the data around the conversion rates and the reply rates, and the reply rates are actually really strong, but they're not sending enough emails. So ask yourself these questions so that you can objectively assess your business and what you can improve. And this is how you turn into a CEO of your business. My name is Justin J. Johnson. I'm the founder and creator of the Beautiful Savage Sales Academy. I hope this is helpful. I want you to use it. I want you to implement it. I want you to burn it down and make a bunch of money. I'll see you in the next video.